what have you seen in
Yeah.
this rise in infertility, number one? And what do you think about how we can be addressing this better?
Yeah. Yeah, this is something I have a lot of firsthand experience with and helping women who were struggling with infertility get pregnant. I mean, I could have a load of them call in or share their stories of
Yeah.
what we did. There's two primary issues here. So, one thing to know is 1 in 6 women struggle with infertility. That's a pretty high rate. And 1 in 4 pregnancies are miscarried or close to that. So I mean,
Yeah.
so we're talking. This is really a significant issue. So when we look at the main cause, it really has to do with the reproductive organs and the adrenals, the relationship there. And it's sort of what I mentioned earlier, even connection to the thyroid, is that your battery is very low. And we need to start to build up the battery there. And so there are certain things that do that. One is a healthy diet. Getting a diet that's very nutrient dense. You especially need B vitamins and selenium, zinc, magnesium are some of the most important. And so I would say eating a diet rich in wild organic meat, fruit like berries specifically would be good. Rice has some unique nutrients that are good for that. And then I would also say vegetables. And so that really should be the basis of the diet. But we really want to strengthen up the adrenal glands. That's really the idea there. There are a category of herbs called adaptogens that tend to be the most beneficial for that. Ashwagandha is one of those. And so especially if a woman has hypothyroid and infertility, that's probably the top herb that would be recommended. And then there's others. I mentioned cordyceps, donquois, and other, but there's a lot of adaptogen, reishi mushroom. Those would all be helpful. Methylated B vitamins, again, I would say B vitamins and adaptogens. Those are the two categories of things that women would need the most to support getting fertile. Now, there's a second part, and this is especially associated with miscarriage, where conceiving is more adrenal reproductive. Carrying is more connected to the pancreas and insulin levels. So if insulin gets high and your blood sugar gets too high, that really has been linked to in studies to miscarriage. And so with that, we want to stop over consuming sugar and refined carbohydrates in those foods. That will cause issues. Exercise can help with that as well. Certain minerals, there's really a unique micro mineral called chromium picolinate that's been shown to help. Cinnamon and fenugreek are two herbs that also help. So those are some things that would help. Now, this is me stepping more into the ancient medicine that I know some people maybe have a little bit of skepticism about. But if we're getting into more of sort of the ideology around it, is that conceiving is really related to going deep and just having peace in your life. Like you have peace, you have purpose. Here's an example of this. People, once they retire, if they don't find something after retiring to live for, like a mission, they die early. It takes years
Mm-hmm.
off their life.
Mm-hmm.
So we
That's so
know
true.
someone having a purpose is actually uniquely tied to longevity and health of your organs. So if a woman feels like, hey, I've got a purpose and I'm also at peace in my life, that, according to these ancient forms of medicine, actually helps with fertility. Now, there's an emotion that actually affects carrying a child, and that is worry. If somebody has a lot of worry and like constantly worrying about everything, obsessing about things, never turns it off, that will affect the pancreas. And I've seen this in people. If anyone's ever worn a continuous blood glucose monitor, you can wear those on your arm, shows your blood sugar levels all the time. If you're even driving a car, it goes up. Any form of stress raises it. So the more you can just balance blood sugar, the way to do that with diet is meat, vegetables, or pretty much it's protein, fat, and fiber. Get protein, fat, and fiber, cut the sugar. That'll help a lot.
I know this is kind of getting a little personal here, but we're talking about like conception and pregnancy. And I am very, very grateful that we've been able to be pregnant and have healthy pregnancies 3 times. I do not take that for granted, but we didn't get pregnant right away. And I just assumed that that's what would happen. As soon as you
Yeah.
start trying, that's, the euphemism that we can use. I just thought it would happen. I mean, both of us are relatively healthy. Sure, I have hypothyroid, but it was well managed. But it didn't happen right away. Actually, all 3 times, it took us 4 months. I
Yeah.
don't really know why, but I do know the only thing I can think of is really there's always like a mental shift for me around like 3 or 4 months. Before that, I'm stressed.
Yeah.
I'm stressed out thinking about it and tracking all the different
Yeah.
things. And I've got the app. And then for whatever reason, around 3, 4 months, I'm like, you know what? If it happens, it happens.
Yes.
And so I just kind of got to let
That's
go
it.
of it. And then it's always around that time. And I'm not trying to say out there that that's the exact formula that's going to happen for you. But it seems like my friends have had the same experience when you're like, okay, we're just having fun. It's
Yep.
fine.
Yep.
I'm not going to worry too much about it. That does seem to be, at least for some people, something that helps.
Well, you know how many women I've heard say this? I got pregnant when I stopped trying.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. Exactly. And so I think that does speak to what you're saying. And there's a biblical aspect of that too, of
Oh,
just
yeah.
not worrying and not being anxious. And when God tells us over and over again throughout scripture, do not fear, do not be anxious about anything.
Yes.
Really? Anything? Anything.
Yes.
Do not worry. Rejoice in everything, even in the difficulties. That there, of course, there's spiritual health to that, but we have to also think that the God who made our bodies knows that that is physically good for us too.
Yeah. Well, one thing a lot of people I don't think realize is that different emotions affect different organ systems.
Yeah.
So we know, for instance, high blood pressure is really tied more to anxiousness. And so if you get anxious, your blood pressure will start to rise. Fear, we most people know this one as well, that affects the adrenals. Your body starts producing more cortisol and stress hormones. Worry, stomach, think about if somebody is worrying over a test or exam, let's say, oh, my stomach is like tied in knots. And then the other one would be anger, that affects the liver and gallbladder and lymphatic system, and then grief. You know, I had a patient once who and this happens quite frequently, got a divorce and just was grieving about it for years. And then she developed autoimmune disease. But grief is really tied to your immune system. If you grieve, it can cause a cough, a cold. Basically, it's not letting go of the past, able to move forward. So there are, I mean, it's amazing to think how deeply tied our emotional and spiritual well-being is to our physical health.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a question for you on that. I have heard, this is another recent discovery of mine, that there are different theories about how we get sick. Terrain theory
Yes.
versus
Bishop. Yeah.
like germ theory, which, okay, this is just my amateur thinking. My amateur thinking is that it's both. I do think, like, when you're anxious, when
Yeah.
you're worried, when you're sad, that of course suppresses your immune system. Your body is using energy in a different way. I know that's true for me. But at the same time, also, I have gotten viruses like from
Yes.
things are clearly contagious to me. And germs do seem to cause illness. Maybe I'm not understanding it correctly. I don't know, but it seems like it wouldn't be both and. What do you think?
You're understanding it.
Or, I mean, it wouldn't be either
You're
or.
You're understanding exactly right. It's both. It's Béchamp's theory. The train theory is the primary.
See, I haven't heard of this.
Okay. Yeah. The
Well,
train.
I haven't heard of Béchamp's. I've only heard of.
He's the person who coined the term.
Okay, I didn't even know that.
Terrain theory, where Louis Pasteur was germ theory.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, yeah.
Gotcha.
And so what happens is, if your immune system is strong, if you've got zinc, if you have vitamin D, if you're low on stress, if you got a lot of natural killer cells that are there and ready. So if your body is generally very healthy, you can be exposed to certain viruses and you won't have any symptoms. Now, if it's a virus your body hasn't dealt with before, or certain bacteria or fungus or parasite, whatever it is, then your body oftentimes will express a symptom. And so it is both. It is, the train theory is all about you get sick because your body is sick and not well. Germ theory is you get sick because you're exposed to a germ. And the answer is, again, the Béchamp theory is the primary reason you get sick is because your body is not healthy. But the secondary reason is, yes, you were exposed to a germ and your body doesn't have quite enough, could be natural killer cells or immune cells in order to fight it oftentimes. So your body, starts going through a process of doing extra things in order to eliminate it from our systems.
Okay.
But it's both, for sure.
So it's both. Germs can cause.
But the conventional medical system is it's only germ theory.
Yeah, which is why they tell us to sanitize our hands constantly.
And the thing that they're not considering there, this is such a great point with COVID, well, let's sanitize everything. But now you're harming your terrain, right? So now you're killing good bacteria. I mean, people don't realize this. So the amount of antibiotics we use topically via hand sanitizers and those things is very high. Cleaning products at home. The number one source we get of antibiotics is not prescription. It's via livestock. 80% of antibiotics today are given to cattle.
Yeah.
And so we are getting some of that antibiotic residue. So we have a lot of these things we're exposed to, which can weaken our immune system. And I do think we should wash our hands.
Yeah.
I just think hot water and things that aren't the strongly antibacterial, lightly, it could be a everything, an essential oil, something
Yeah.
like that would actually be a lot better for our systems.